Greetings and a warm good afternoon to everybody. Thank you all for joining us today for an important discussion again on a FICCI Tech Thought Leadership session on Frugal Procurement for ICT Service, Everything as a Service. Before we begin, I would like to welcome Shri Prakash Mirani, Joint Secretary and ACEO, Government E-Marketplace, and would like to thank him for sparing his valuable time for us. We would also like to welcome Mr. Vikram Kumar, Country Manager, HPE, and thank him for joining the session. We have an eminent set of panel discussion with the panelists joining in from different parts and different verticals. We have in the panel Professor Vivek Kumar Singh, Head Department of Computer Science, BHU, Banaras Hindu University, Varanasi. Mr. Ranganath Sadashiva, Chief Technology Officer, HPE. Mr. Prasanna Lohar, Head Technology, Innovation and Architecture, DCB Bank. And Mr. Sanjay Morawal, Senior GMIT, Candela Healthcare Limited. And the session would be moderated by Mr. Amrish Bakaya, who's the co-chair for ICT and Mobile Manufacturing Committee of FICCI. Thank you all for joining and sparing time. We look forward to a really deep discussion on an important subject. Since we started a little late, so I will be very brief. We all know now this subject which we're talking about, what is frugal procurement, what role it can play in the ICT sector, and how it can become everything as a service. This is a discussion when you will hear the veterans talk across the verticals, how this is coming up. For the people, for the benefit, we all know that technology has played a key enabler role during this pandemic time. And this pandemic has not been just a health pandemic, it has been an economic disruptor. And the new ways, be it of the business operations, procurement, have been emerging. And we can't actually, as a country, leave behind those options where we feel the benefits can be realized. We understand that the pandemic has caused a high economic toll also on the businesses, and there have been, I would say, the amounts have been diverted to the cases of, say, healthcare, vaccination, and other, obviously impacting the revenue and the other operations which were supposed to be done. So, keeping that in mind, since we see that pandemic is not all over and the things are coming up with the new normal, we need to find a way where the frugal procurement for ICT service comes into place. The concept is simple. If you can't buy it, you take it on lease. But we have to understand the implementation models and around the same. Understanding the same, we have gathered today at FICCI for this thought leadership session. I would now request Mr. Vikram Kumar, the country manager for HPE, to kindly deliver his industry address. Over to you, Mr. Kumar.
Sarigam, thanks and good afternoon and a warm welcome to everyone. I hope you are able to hear me and see my slides, please.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And I really thank Ma'am Sarika, Ma'am FICCI, and the team for giving us this opportunity to be presenting here. And I'll quickly jump into my simple agenda. I know I have 10 minutes to cover my initial session. So I just wanted to touch briefly upon, what is this whole as a service concept from HPE, which is Greenlake, and what are the offerings we have, a little bit about hybrid cloud strategy and what is HPE's point of view, and I'll quickly summarize. So without any further ado, let me move into the session. And I just wanted to place this slide as a reference or a context where, 95% of the organizations are likely to have a hybrid environment, which is a combination of public and private clouds. And those public clouds could be multiple private clouds, and the private clouds could be either on-prem or co-located for them in a colo provider space. And second is that most of the cloud adopters are really looking at the bulk of their applications, which are either business critical or mission critical, being on-prem within the control of their data center or co-located and within their own control as a private cloud. And this is something that's been, common theme across many industries. And we see the spend in private cloud from customers across various segments, large customers, enterprise customers, medium customers, and even SMBs. This is a common theme across all segments. And just to give a concept, I think, ma'am, you also covered about it. If you can buy it, if you can't buy, lease it. I say if you can't buy it also, or if you can buy it also, buy, even lease it or buy it, save your money for driving your business initiatives. I think take it as a service. That is what my recommendation is. So there is a traditional approach where you customers have been buying floating RFPs or tenders for the requirements and buying, while this had some element of control, but this involved a lot of sales cycle or procurement cycle from customer side, and a long evaluation cycle, and then even some repeat purchase again had to go through the process, so making things very, very difficult. And then came the public cloud providers who are offering a lot of infrastructure as a service or platform as a service on a as a service model. Though it gave a lot of flexibility, agility to customers, still came with a lot of issues around data privacy, uncontrollable OPEX, and even in some cases latency and networking related issues. I think all of us are just being a victim of what happened yesterday with 6 hours of downtime with Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram. I was very curiously surprised when I was speaking to one of my CIOs from one of the fintech companies. He said that, Vikram, it is just not that those app providers got hit by this. Even we got hit. I said, how does it impact you? He said, because they are taking a DNS service from one of the cloud providers. All the banks that they are serving, to whom they are providing risk management and authentication with the OTP, they were not able to access the Wibmo sites because of this issue at the DNS provider end. So I was really surprised. So what we did was we wanted to offer the best of both worlds to our customers, and that's how HP Greenlake came into existence, where we provide the entire portfolio of product solutions and services from the HP stable as a service to customer. Customer doesn't have to spend any upfront money to buy whatever solution they need, and we truly bring the entire cloud-like experience on-prem for the customer, whether it is on-prem or off-prem or at the edge. And how do we provide that? Let me just move on. And this is a statement from our CEO, who's made this public announcement that HP is going to become an edge to cloud as a service company. And we will offer the entire length and breadth of HP solutions from the HP Greenlake portfolio. And what we are basically saying is HP Greenlake is a cloud that comes to you, whether you have your apps, data, or infra at the edge, or in your data center or co-locator or in the public cloud. We want to give the customers a very, very seamless experience, which is, in a self-service model. You pay for what you use or what you consume. It is both scale up and scale down, and we can also manage it for you. This is the entire value proposition from the Greenlake portfolio. And how do we do it? Let's say a customer has a production requirement. This could be in the form of computer storage. Let's say 100 servers, 1,000 cores, or 500 TB of storage. It could be any combinations of there. And what we provide is we provide a local buffer to the customer. And whenever there's an increase in the requirement, it gets drawn from the local buffer and gets added to the production capacity. And when it becomes steady state, it decreases and gets added back to the local buffer. Basically, what we have realized based on experience across different segments of customers, we feel that the steady state utilization of most applications is in the range of maybe 40 to 60%. And usually customers size their infrastructure for peak loads, and that is the efficiency that we want to bring to the customer, that they only consume the peaks when they need it, and they only pay for the steady state utilization. That is the whole concept of Greenlake. I'll try and explain this to you in a slightly more detail. On x-axis, you see timeline, and on y-axis, you see dollar or cost. And typically, customer requirement could be like this, which is this blue line. It just grows. It could be any form of infrastructure that customer is using. And the customers typically buy up in tranches, which is what they buy whatever they need for the next 12 months, 18 months, or even 2 years upfront, and then they upgrade and use the equipment maybe for its useful life of 5 to 6 years, and then retire the asset. So if you really see here, there are this gray line depicts that this could have been the capacity that customers need, and this is the buffer that we try and provide. And what we are trying to do is we are trying to save money for this customer, where if the requirement was here, they went ahead and bought so much. So these are these islands of savings that we want to harness and pass it on to our customers. And we also share the risk with the customer. And second is there could be small instances or points in time where actually the capacity is below the requirement, or the demand has overrun the supply. That is the case. So we avoid all these pitfalls. And what we do also is we peg the reserve level for a customer at a much lesser level than what their actual requirement is. As I said, if the blue line is the requirement, this dashed green line would be what we peg as a reserve or minimum level at which we bill the customer month on month. And whatever is between the dashed gray, the green line and the buffer line is actually pay for use. So let's say customer says, I need 100 servers or 100 TB of storage. Maybe we'll peg this reserve level as 80 or 70 and give a buffer of 110, and whatever customer consumes between these two becomes his actual pay for use. So this is how we are able to bring those efficiencies of not sizing the infrastructure for peak load, and helping the customers save money, and also have the flexibility and agility what they need to drive the business. So today in the HP Greenlake portfolio, it is just not simple compute or storage or networking that we are offering. We are offering workloads as a service. So when I say workload as a service, a simple example could be data protection, which is a backup as a service, where we provide the backup physical device, the backup software, and the services along with that. And we offer the choice of backup software to the customer, which could be either a Commvault or a Veeam or a data protector, and customer pays us only on a month-on-month basis for the actual capacity of data that is backed up in terms of terabytes. So another workload could be a private cloud. We can help the customer set up their own private cloud. And we are very proud to say that within 5 clicks and 2 minutes, we can actually help the customer create their own VM and also deploy the choice of operating environment or template into that particular VM instance. We offer containers as a service based on the HP Ezmeral platform. We offer VDI as a service, except the end user device, which could be a desktop or a laptop. We provide the entire solution with a combination of either Citrix or VMware to customers. SAP HANA has been a very good workload for us, where we are able to provide the HANA infrastructure to the customers and charge them only on the actual utilization of HANA database server as seen in the SAP global allocation list. So this is just not a full portfolio. This is an illustrative sample of what we are able to offer to our customers as workloads. And this list is ever growing depending on the most popular workloads that customer want from HP. And whatever we feel that there is a huge potential in the market, we are just going and launching these. Recently, we've launched high performance computing as a workload also. So you can have the combination of hardware, software as an outcome from the HP Greenlake portfolio. And this we are able to do, as I said, with a combination of technology partners. We work with the leading providers like Microsoft, Red Hat, SUSE, SAP, Nutanix, the works. And we have a very large ecosystem of system integration and co-location partners. And we also have a lot of channel partners who are taking these offerings to our customers and educating them. And we are engaging with all our customers across verticals with this offering. And I also wanted to briefly touch upon the Greenlake management services. It is just not supplying the hardware, software, and metering it for you. We can also run the entire infrastructure and the environment for you. So the typical IMAC as per ITIL process framework, which is install, move, add, change, whatever is possible, the L1, L2 kind of stuff, we can do it for you. We can deploy the tool on-prem, or we can do it remotely from our iTalk. And it is a combination of on-site and off-site combination that we are able to provide the entire monitoring and management for our customers, right from the infra up to the application layer. And this is a service which is available from HP portfolio also, or some of our partners or SIs are also providing this as a complementary services over the Greenlake infrastructure or platform and service that we provide. I wanted to just cover a few minutes on Greenlake Central. This is a very, very important offering from the HP Greenlake portfolio. And this is offered to all our Greenlake customers. Basically, if you see here, this is the main screen that comes in, whether it is a CIO who wants to know what is the current utilization, what is the excess capacity he has, what is the capacity that is needed in the next 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months. It provides all that information centrally. Or if it is a CFO or somebody from finance who wants to know what is my monthly billing, what is my forecasted capacity utilization, and how much will I need to spend in the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, it provides that. So it is a one-stop shop for our customers, which provides complete insights into monitoring and metering of the entire infrastructure. And what we do is we also provide a form of interfacing with the public cloud providers. Today we offer it with AWS and Azure. If we believe that the world is going to be hybrid, how are we going to help our customers? That is the question with which Greenlake Central came into existence. And we thought if our customers are going to use some instances in public cloud, why don't we give them a single pane of glass where they can come and look at their entire utilization. So today we offer that. So if you are having infra or service running within on-prem within Greenlake, or you have something running in the public cloud, we can pull that information for you and populate it and show it on a single console for you in the Greenlake Central. So this is a fantastic tool that all our customers are able to use, just not for looking at their monthly billing or capacity utilization. They are also able to do forecasting of future capacity. Based on their current utilization, the system is actually able to forecast what is their capacity requirement going to be in the next 3, 6, or 12 months, and we are able to augment capacity much in advance before they actually need it. This is my last slide. I'll just summarize. So most customers ask us, where do we start? I think my request to all our customers is that please ask for the right mix advisory service that HP provides, where we look at what is your current infrastructure and application footprint, and which is the best place for you to run your workload on-prem, off-prem, or in the public cloud. So this is a service that we provide to all our customers. We just not provide advisory, but we also design and implement these solutions for you. Under Greenlake portfolio, customer has the choice of buying best-in-class HP software and hardware solutions, and we architect a customized solution for the customers. Unlike a public cloud offering, which is multi-tenant and shared infrastructure, this is a single tenant dedicated infrastructure for the customer, which is either hosted within the customer's own data center, or it can be co-located for them in the choice of their colo provider. And then we also provide, along with the HP hardware, we also provide industry-leading software solutions, which could be Microsoft, Red Hat, SUSE, VMware, etc. And we also provide, to complete the solution, some of the complementary third-party products. Could be a firewall, could be a load balancer, extra. This is also available, as a part of the overall offering from Greenlake. And we deliver best-in-class SLAs for our customers. Whatever mission critical environments or business critical environments they are running, we provide the highest availability and provide services like data center care to take care of these mission critical requirements for the customer. And last but not the least, as I spoke about, we provide the optional Greenlake management services for the customers to run this entire setup for the customer and take away the headache of focusing on keeping the lights on and focusing more on innovation. So that's all from my side. Thanks for the opportunity. Over to you, Sarika ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Vikram, for sharing the offerings which HP has been looking into it, various things and the potential and how you have been delivering it. Thank you for our detailed presentation. With this, we move to our the guest of the honor for this webinar, Mr. Shri Prakash Mirani ji, who is the Joint Secretary and Additional CEO for the Government E-Marketplace, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. Over to you, Shri Mirani ji, to hear your thoughts on this important subject. We know GEM has been doing a lot into the areas associated with the same. So we would like to hear your thoughts. How do you see this frugal procurement for ICT service, which is basically everything as a service in future for India?
Thank you, Sarika. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay. A very warm good afternoon to all distinguished panelists and ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to participate in this session on frugal procurement for ICT services, everything as a service, organized by FICCI. This opportunity has come very timely, as we have also started deliberating on this topic internally in GEM. I'm happy to share some of my thoughts on the subject. Before I get into the nuts and bolts of ICT procurement, I want to briefly introduce you all to what the government e-marketplace is and what role it plays in the public procurement ecosystem in India. GEM is a marketplace cum procurement platform which was set up by the government of India to radically reimagine the century-old public procurement system and processes. In about 5 years since its inception, GEM has completely disrupted this ecosystem through its unified digital marketplace and diverse ecosystem of buyers and sellers. GEM has evolved as a self-certified, trust-based technology enabler and facilitator where authentication of users is done through API integration with respective domain databases, namely Aadhaar, PAN, Udyog Aadhaar, Startup, GSTN, MCA 21, etc. I'm happy to share that public procurement on GEM has been growing at a rapid pace, and the total procurement in the current financial year is expected to cross rupees 1 lakh crore. There are 3 key pillars or values that underlie everything that GEM does: inclusiveness, transparency, and efficiency with cost savings. Inclusiveness is the main theme of GEM. There are around 7 lakh MSMEs registered on GEM, including 1.2 lakh women entrepreneurs and 31,000 SC/ST entrepreneurs. GEM now has more than 9,000 startups, 3,000 self-help groups, 1.5 lakh weavers, and around 27,000 artisans on the platform. The value of orders placed on MSMEs is around 58% of total order value placed on GEM. In fact, GEM Startup Runway is a unique concept initiated in partnership with Startup India to promote entrepreneurship through innovation. This program is an opportunity for agile and lean startups to reach out to the universe of government buyers. Similarly, GEM Saha is another initiative that provides micro and small enterprises access to timely credit with instant loan disbursement to fulfill their working capital requirements. GEM is constantly engaging with stakeholders to make the procurement processes contactless and faceless with due accountability. Features such as bid representation window, online clarification window, and challenge to bid rejection window have all been introduced to improve the transparency in the system. Analytics tools are being used to assist buyers in determining the reasonability of prices before placement of orders. GEM is also investing heavily in artificial intelligence and machine learning tools to not only flag inappropriate behavioral patterns of buyers and sellers, but also to proactively guide them in appropriate decision making. An independent study by the World Bank indicated substantially higher participation against the bids issued on GEM. In other portals in India, the average number of bids received per tender hovered around 3 to 4 bids, while an average bid count of 9 per tender was observed in GEM. Our topic of the day, frugal procurement in ICT services, falls squarely within these priorities, that is driving efficiency along with cost savings for our government buyers. For a government buyer, procurement of ICT products and services is a complex activity, and they struggle in preparing vendor-neutral bid documents. Sellers also suffer due to lack of clarity in scope and other terms and conditions of bids. To help both buyers and sellers overcome such challenges, GEM has undertaken standardization of technical parameters and standard terms and conditions for both products and services, which bring objectivity and clarity in scope of work and helps create a level playing field between competitors. Buyers are able to reduce their procurement cycles and benefit from the competition amongst sellers. Buyers are also able to aggregate demand across multiple consignee locations, which further helps optimize the cost of procurement of various products and services. Purchasing hardware and infrastructure via CapEx model means the government owns the asset. Owning the asset also means the government is stuck with it, even if something better or more useful comes along, which can be frustrating for a government buyer who wants to leverage new and emerging technologies. The hardware acquired by the buyers have no value after the project period. On the other hand, sellers, OEMs may still be able to extract some value from the devices at the end of their project life. This will also encourage sellers to build quality products that are durable, provide quality service, and can further be reused for other means, which will be more environment friendly and step towards sustainable procurement. In view of this situation, it is essential to devise new methods of procurement so that buyer can access new technologies quickly. So what is the way forward? Everything as a service or OPEX model means the government pays only for the actual usage, which can be invaluable for organization which experience spikes and breaks in demand. Cloud services are a very good example of everything as a service, where instead of procuring hardware infrastructure and paying upfront for storage or computing power that may sit idle for days or weeks, the buyer can pay less when demand is low and then ramp up when needed. I would like to inform that all the cloud service offerings impaneled be procured by any government department through GEM. Many buyers are already buying these services through GEM, and we are also engaging with MIT to bring more cloud services on GEM portal. In fact, now the concept of everything as a service is extending beyond ICT products. The primary goal of everything as a service is to increase the value for the customer. In this model, service providers look to convert one-time buyers into service subscribers who receive ongoing benefits from the product. Buyers also have the option of switching over to another service provider if the quality of service or SLAs are not met, without worrying about any CapEx investment that has been undertaken in the project. However, getting the right value proposition for buyers is important for such offering to be successful. Besides cloud, some services like photocopying, scanning and digitization, and cloud-based conferencing are already available on GEM on a similar model. Some services like car rental services, kilometer basis, hiring of laptops, tablets, etc. are also being considered on GEM in near future. I look forward to the panel discussion to learn how GEM can further embrace the concept of everything as a service and provide more value to stakeholders, while also addressing the challenges around data security and confidentiality. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mirani, for sharing the work which GEM is doing, the initiatives which you have, the organization has taken it up, be it with the startup or with the other partners. And of course, like you said, there's things which has been done from the industry side also, and we really look forward to work with GEM and the true partners. Our members really like to work with GEM as true partners on this, keeping, of course, the major criteria of the confidentiality and the data security, which of course remains the major issue. With this, now I would now request the co-chairman for the ICT and the Mobile Manufacturing Committee, Mr. Amrish Pakaya, who is also the moderator for the session, to kindly set the tone for the session, the agenda, and carry forward the proceedings of the session. We have have all the other panelists right now live with us. Over to you, Mr. Bakaya.
Thank you very much, Sarika. Also would like to thank Mr. Mirani for his kind words, as well as Mr. Y. Vikram for his feedback on this concept. I think FICCI is the ICT and Mobile Manufacturing Committee is committed to looking at new ways of looking at this larger digital space. As the ICT committee, we sort of straddle all the way from from the edge to the cloud, as it were, with all the telecom service providers, all the way to the system integrators, including hardware, software players being part of the committee. So this could be potentially a start to a series of events which we may have around this particular sort of space. It was really interesting what Mr. Mirani mentioned about how innovative ideas like everything as a service and consumption-based models are environmentally friendly, allow access to new technologies, and are able to take the country's digital India mission forward in many ways. And it's so welcoming to hear that GEMS is actually trying to evangelize this in the hybrid sort of model that they're looking at. I have the proud privilege to welcome a very distinguished panel. Here I'd like to start by introducing Professor Vivek Kumar Singh, who is an old friend of ours and is actually the head of the Department of Computer Sciences in the Banaras Hindu University. He's a renowned academician, a teacher, and has brought a huge amount of transformation, not just to the students that he is teaching, but also, to the larger BHU, the Computer Sciences division. So welcome, Professor Vivek Singh. I'd also like to, introduce you to, we have the JAM Trinity. So banking is integral to digital transformation. And I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Prasanna Lohar, who's the head technology, innovation and architecture. Really good to see you here, Prasanna. And we would look forward to hearing from you about how everything as a service could play a transformational role in the way customers and consumers look at banking and how it frees up and look to your frank feedback about how something like this would work. We also, I guess, cannot have a discussion without having technology, which is an integral, horizontal to all of this. So, it's my privilege to also have on this panel Ranga, who's the Chief Technology Officer for Hewlett-Packard Enterprise India. He's again had a lot of experience in the technology space, both working with hard companies like HPE, but also in the consulting sort of space. So I think he brings with him a lot of invaluable insights to how something like this frugal procurement can help impact the larger country as well as the enterprise. We all know this has been a really sort of trying time for all of us across the country. We also had a panelist from the pharmaceutical space. We're keeping our fingers crossed that he might be able to join back because we thought we could hear from him about vaccination and how technology could be used. All of us know how the CoWIN and the CoWIN app, as well as other apps, have actually made our life much simpler as citizens of the country. So let's keep our fingers crossed that we could get his feedback on this subject. Professor Singh, I'd like to actually start with you first, and would like to have your feedback as to how BHU, especially in the ICT and technology space, has been combating the last year and a half, which we have seen. I know you all have been sort of doing stellar work in this space, but would like to understand from you in the maybe in two parts, the academia space, and to some extent, as Mr. Mirani talked about the public procurement space, that how will a model like everything as a service really work? Especially in the higher education space for technology, and would love, and if you have any feedback also on the procurement process, would love to hear your feedback, Professor Singh. Yep.
Thank you, Amrish. Wonderful context set by Vikram and then again by Prakash. And I'm so happy to know that, GEM is actively considering a lot of new options for public procurement. And I would take up your second question first, which is about the public procurement part. I have been heading the ICT infrastructure part of the university for some time. And we also did some big projects. All of them were CapEx projects. For example, you will be happy to know that Banaras Hindu University is the largest Wi-Fi campus in the country. So one of the largest deployments of Wi-Fi campus, and that too, which is EduRoam enabled and so on. So largely, I think in order to understand what happens in universities, or for that matter, if we talk about universities or colleges which are in public sector, please be also aware of the number. We have more than 900 universities in India. That includes all kinds of universities, about 40,000 colleges that we have. And there are huge variations in terms of the access that they have, the funding that they get, and the geographical location related advantages and disadvantages that are associated with each of these institutions. Now, historically, what has been happening is, you may be aware of the fact that the funding that we have, particularly the public funded universities, we have two kind of bifurcations. We have some fund which is called recurring and some fund which is called non-recurring, which is the CapEx part. And traditionally, what has been happening is that the non-recurring part was largely dependent on the projects and what is it that you propose, and it was ad hoc basis and so on. But the recurring part has been, reducing constantly over a period of time. All the universities that I know of, we all face a lot of challenges in maintaining the infrastructure that we have already procured. So this is a very, very serious challenge, which I see in universities particularly. And given the fact that we have been working in a situation, the CapEx model has been a more favorable model for the universities, because we always used to have more fund in the non-recurring heads. So we could acquire new things, but we never had enough fund under the recurring head, which we could spend for, maintaining and manageability of the services and products that we have already acquired. So coming to this, everything as a service, I think, this is a wonderful thing that should change the entire environment, the entire ambience of universities and colleges. And particularly because of the two facts that I would like to mention here. One, whatever capital infrastructure that we create, maintainability is always a challenge. Maintainability and ensuring high availability is always a challenge, given the kind of manpower that we have. So any new IT guy that we hire is going to be there with us for at least 30, 35 years. And there is, some amount of complacency that ropes in people in IT sector in public funded universities that, I can't learn beyond a point. And given the fact that IT industry is changing so rapidly, things are changing so rapidly, we never have updated people to manage the show. So as a result, maintainability and availability is a big challenge. And this is where, lack of trained manpower and updated manpower is very, very problematic. So this is where everything as a service could be very, very useful. And also what Prakash mentioned about, the right of path. So when we acquired something, it is okay to acquire, everybody's happy. But what after 10 years? What after 12 years? Or what after 8 years? Now, when it comes to retiring the product or retiring the infrastructure that we have acquired, writing it off, retiring and doing it in a manner where we are, taking into account the considerations of protection of the environment and also, so all of these are big challenges that we face. And what I see is that everything as a service or more and more on the OpEx model not only allows us in keeping updated and saving us from different kind of hassles of maintainability, manageability, write-offs, and so on, but also gives us a kind of edge in terms of efficiency and flexibility. So this is where I think we particularly people working in universities would be very, very happy, where access to infrastructure and access to resources is a very important thing, because for a faculty member, full-time access at the campus, off the campus is very, very important. And we are now among the top 5 knowledge producers of the world, and this has to improve like anything if we want to be really relevant and competitive in the world economy that we have, and given the knowledge-based economy that we all encounter. In fact, we have recently started an experiment of setting up a new lab of a general purpose 24/7 compute lab, which is something that we are trying to procure on a leasing basis. So it would be a kind of facility that would be managed by the provider, and we would just be using the service for a period of 5 years, and then everything goes back. And maybe after 5 years, we'll be getting something. So in terms of the IT infra procurement and all of this, particularly, I am personally very happy that these kind of models are emerging. And I'm pretty sure that this is going to change the entire ecosystem, the entire spectrum of the public procurement model. And coming to your first question, well, from somebody being in computer science, we had a slight edge to adapt to the situation, and that is how we have been doing reasonably well in terms of that our teaching learning activities have continued. Our access to the campus resources, to the journals and digital library has continued for almost all the faculty members. So we have succeeded to a great extent in that. But yes, some of our students also face challenges, because BHE being a university where we also get a lot of students from rural areas where connectivity and all of this is a big challenge. And we all know only 42% of the Indian population have access to internet as in 2021. So this was a challenge for us, and we are just trying to cope with that. But overall, in terms of the teaching learning activities, we have been doing pretty well. And thanks to guys like you, thanks to the technology that is there, where we could manage well. So I think this is my opening comment. Thank you very much. I would be happy to listen to others as
well. Thank you very much, Professor Singh. I actually have a follow-up question, but I think I will reserve that and come back to you. I'd like to sort of talk to Prasanna and ask for his feedback. We all know that the banking space has been really very integral, especially in the current sort of times. Consumers and customers, need sort of access to banking services. So my question to you was that, from a DCB bank perspective, how do you see, models like everything as a service, or the ability to buy technologies in this form? Given your vast experience, how do you see something like that emerging in the larger sort of banking space? Especially given the current environment. So Prasanna, would love to hear your feedback on that, please.
Yeah, so thank you, Amrish sir, for this opportunity to express my last 6, 7, 8 years at a DCB bank, how we are really evolved. When I joined this bank, right, so we were hardly having any of those much more needed infrastructure or architecture built for next generation of banking. We looked at, I looked at as an architecture, what is that missing? So we drafted a strategy at a bank level. It's called as a CEAT, like create, engage, act, and transform. So we have created a lot of platforms internally which were not available. Say example, enterprise service bus, or some of the payment applications, say example, NEFT, RTGS, or revamping of that, considering the upcoming load from the fintech companies, UPI or Bharat Bill payment. So creation of all those much more needed backend systems, omni-channel architecture to serve multiple channels, internet, mobile, and upcoming WhatsApp banking or the contact center channels on the same layer. So this is how we created the overall architecture at our end. And by the time we have built it in 17, 18, and now when we look at our whole journey in 2021, we could see that we need to do some of the reverse. Why? Because there is some demand from the customers which is coming on the top layer, right? So to do that, we have to again look at how we can really mold our enterprise service bus and the API banking. So now we are looking at the how completely microservices based architectures on top of that, right? So that's again how can we really service oriented architecture. After the creation of a C part, like we looked at engage, so engaging partners, engaging ecosystem, startups, engaging academia. So we run a program so-called Innovation Carnival overall since last 4 to 5 years, where we work closely with a lot of startups. We work with a lot of state governments and so on. And while deploying our applications, right, we have emphasized, we have seen that every application has to be on a service level model. So any of the fintechs, they come up with they don't come up with a model like a data center based deployment. They always come up as a service oriented architecture and a service based model. So that's how, as a bank, we have learned. When I say we have learned, our people now started talking that language, right? To paper use or using so on. So again, we touched base our create aspect, and we created complete our infrastructure on a virtualized environment. Our 95% environment is virtualized. Anybody asks for any UAT or test server, it is available in a matter of 15-20 minutes. So that's what we have created, that whole kind of infrastructure. And now again we are touching upon CA Act, right? How do we really act based upon omnichannel architecture we have built, or ESBs we have built? So we have created a lot of innovations on top of that, right? All these innovations, say example, one of those innovations like video KYC. So video KYC, we wanted in pandemic time, we wanted to go ahead and launch it for our customers immediately, so that we deal with those KYC problems. Our staff is not able to meet customers on the field, right? So video KYC, some of the non-banking applications, we again immediately put it on the cloud. So again, as a service. Okay, so I think more or less at the same time, we are now going back and asking those core service providers, say example, Infosys or any of those lending applications which are built on a core architecture, right? So now they are also now seeing that difference, how it can be on a cloud, right? So I will not be surprised Infosys comes in 4-5 years. Okay, this is something matured core bank. They are working on it, but it is not that matured. So even databases, right? Say example, next version of Oracle database is again coming on the cloud, right? Oracle 19c. So likewise, as an organization, we see while we are adopting everything as a service, right? We have implemented software defined networks for our branches, right? So, and we have reduced a lot of cost, and rather a reduction of cost and enhancing the performance between communication between a data center and the branches also increase. So likewise, we could see branch transformation. Say example, one of the projects which we are doing, say example, customer coming in the branch, right? And we want to read out his face and facial expressions and how much time he has spent in the bank branch, right? While how much time he spent in the lobby and visited to the actual teller. And we want to really quantify, qualify whether these branch is really working properly for those products which we are selling, say example, gold loan, fixed deposit, and so on. So these kind of innovations, if I want to bring in on the cloud or on even data or my managed data center, it will take huge amount. But what we are doing, we are moving on to the as a service on the edge. So all the GPUs are deployed on the branch-based network, right? So as an organization, while moved from that managed data center, and we have done some kind of a couple of data center migrations last 3 to 4 years, we see that 4 or 5 aspects have changed for organization. We have had now experts who can really create those agile architectures as everything as a service, like people or reskilling of those people we have done. We have identified which are those existing processes, example, video KYC or taking care of a branch performance, or tomorrow's video KYC could be on a blockchain as a service, right? Wherein we are working closely with IDRBT and BT. So as an organization, we understand a lot of processes will move as a service. Thirdly, it's not only cloud or it's not only big data or IoT. Tomorrow 5G becomes reality. Inherently, customers will keep on asking, wherever I am there, I want banking experience, right? I want banking experience on my wearables. I want banking experience in my car, like my car should do automatic transactions, or I want banking experience within my home. My electricity should be paid out by electricity appliances itself, right? So adoption of combination of API banking, cloud with a better security, the blockchain, or a smart transactions to be implemented with the help of blockchain, and wherein we provide bidirectional notification to the customer after reading and understanding their data with the big data, right? So these kind of architectures are now getting into picture rather than earlier core banking and silos-based payment systems, silos, ESB or silos, big data. So as a service, I will not be surprised some service provider comes and says, I am providing digital core bank, which comes with everything, right? Or Infosys comes and say, I provide a system which has everything as a bank you need as a service. So while we are moving slowly in that direction, I could see some of the organizations are emerging as a banking as a service, right? So what they do, they go to the fintechs and they say, I have all the APIs and all, I have a thin layer of a banking. And if you can really integrate with this, I am sitting on these several banks, 7-8 banks, right? So fintechs will go to them. In similar way, banks also will go to them because fintechs are already aligned with them. So in this context, while we are creating these kind of a juggleries or innovations, I must say account aggregator, like which came in our life as a banking system, it will drive a lot of innovations. I think our sir was talking about GEM or GST data, right? So how it can, that data can be utilized for SMEs or MSMEs. So while we are adopting innovations or technologies, we need to see a customer interest, retail customer, corporate customer, SME customer, and a lot of customers with the right business models, right? So as a service, it's gonna be a reality. It is a reality, but how do we really help, right? New business models. Say example, SME sitting on his tally and want to integrate with a banking experience within tally. Is it possible? It is possible, and some of the banks has done it. DCB has done it with the Zohos and some of the startups, wherein all banking experience along with the inventory management, forecasting, and we are enabling that data understanding for that SME, so that needed services, right? GST submission automatically, and even how the performance is happening on for the SME, whether they need any loan or more, so they don't have to visit a branch. Our branch staff will immediately understand the performance of that guy. So the banking is moving out of those branches, slowly went on to the mobile banking or internet banking we have seen. Now banking slowly will become a marketplace, right? So open marketplace, like we have seen Pesa Bazaar, Bank Bazaar, Lending Bazaar. So where all these banks will be available with their services, right? These are my services plugged into that marketplace, and I'll act as one of the actor in that whole banking, non-banking ecosystem. That's how we will see when we'll adopt more of a blockchain and AI kind of ecosystem. I'll not be surprised, like today we talk a lot about mobility as a form factor, or a website as a form factor. Tomorrow those form factors will be augmented reality or a virtual reality, right? Wherever I'm there, the way we are doing conference on Zoom, it will be on some different form factors. Similarly, some customers sitting in another country want to do and branch experience, or to do some kind of, we can really create that whole, augmented reality or virtual reality. It could not be a pure play that use case, but the form factors are changing, right? So, and everything is coming on data, everything coming on the cloud, or maybe tomorrow quantum or edge. So on those lines, it's very important for a bank, like say example DCB Bank, to understand how their people, their skill set, which are those processes to adapt slowly, and which are those tech partners to be collaborated. Whatever we are doing, is it aligned with the regulators, regulatory and compliance or security angle, right? Or maybe somebody is doing crypto and or crypto bank, which is technically possible, but is it really aligned with the regulations? Today we are talking about a lot of banking in like settlement, reconciliation, and blockchain comes as a service and say, I will do away with a lot of operations within banking ecosystem, right? Cross-border payment, trade finance. I can name 30+ use cases where the way we have created previous banking can be slowly over a period of next 10 years will evolve. Maybe 2030 we will say banking was there within those institutions or branches, but now banking is everywhere. So as an organization, if I want to move that on that path, or after understanding my internal customer, external customer, we need to really adopt everything as a service, right? We as a bank do understand, and we are seeing a collaboration and innovation on the right path will really help us. So these are my initial remarks, Amrish sir. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Prasanna. And it's very interesting that you also have talked about this need for availability, maintainability were the issues which Professor Singh talked about. You've talked about cost reductions, about transformation. So I think this is a good segue for us to ask Ranga about his feedback about how technology companies like HPE can help solve some of these challenges. How will everything as a service play an increasing role in technology selling as compared to traditional capex selling, and how would it meet your customer requirements, like Professor Singh's from an academic space, or Prasanna's from a banking space? So would love to hear a technologist sort of point of view on this, Ranga. Yeah.
Hey, thanks, Ambrish, and some great insights from both our co-panelists here. So the way I look at it, Ambrish, is IT, which predominantly was in the fringe, is now becoming core to all kinds of businesses. And in all of this, thanks to the pandemic, the silver lining there, amidst all that we went through, was an acceleration of digital transformations or digital adoption, right? So there is a sense of pace that we see across all organizations. And if at all we think that that pace is the fastest, in the context of tomorrow, it is the slowest again. So, we are at this cusp of many activities happening and a transformation happening. And glad to note, across the board, people have really relied on technology for solving the problems, right? While it kind of has been solving problems across the board, but it was never as good or great as it was today, right? From the way we kind of went through the issues around pandemic, and as Prasanna was talking about, how the bank has really transformed, or as Professor said, how education has transformed. All of this has really transformed in a way to deliver a better outcome for the world, right? And I can recollect here from an HP purpose, we say the purpose of why we exist as an entity in the organization today, or in the world today, is to advance the way people live and work, right? That is what we look at. And in all of this, what I see is a kind of a trifecta happening, right? You have this need for digital growth and demands, and there is technology which can really do this for you, and there is this efficiency as well, right? So these are the three aspects that are very important in any transformation today. And purely talking about technology, I think the biggest impact on technology has happened across three elements. If you're looking at cloud and cloud-related technologies, the way it has transformed, everyone has consumed IT. The growing relevance of data and compute needs, which is also very, very significant. We are kind of adding so much of data today. I think we'll reach about 175, 180 zettabytes in the next 2-3 years. That's the kind of data that we are accumulating. And more importantly, we're trying to get insights out of it. And last but not the least is how devices are coming into our lives, right? The number of devices each person carries today is typically on an average of 3 or 4 devices, right? They're all connected as an individual, but in an organization, it's much more than that. So in all of this, the cloud, I think, brought in a new element in terms of how IT can be delivered, right? Consume as you go, pay as you consume. These were the new things that came into play. It also kind of liberated what we just spoke of, right? The capital expenditures that we had, and typically we had procurement cycles, a supply had to happen, it has to be installed and stuff like that, right? That all kind of vanished, or could have vanished with the inclusion of cloud. But that is a utopian world. But if you have to look at cloud per se, there are several other challenges. We spoke of a few here, whether it is in terms of data gravity or compliance, or whether it is performance that you would need, connectivity, right? All of that need to kind of happen to make these things even more better, right? And with roughly 70 or 75% of all applications really still resident in on-prem devices today, and in on-prem in organizations, there was a need for every vendor to think differently, right? And that is where I see the beginning of as a service really creating an impact. And when we spoke about this almost 5 to 6 years ago, it was something that people were really trying to synthesize whether it is a relevant solution, wherein technology option that one could adopt to. So, we held on to this because cloud is about a decade old now, and much more than that. HP looked at as a service and held on to a very, very fundamental aspect called the experience aspect, right? The customer experience that you can get, right? Or the cloud experience that is actually demanded by customers today, right? So that is where the emergence of as a service has caught the imagination of people. Moving into the cloud is a matter of why. It is and when and how you. It's not a matter of why, but when and how you can do that. The benefits of cloud actually are pretty much in the area of speed, agility, cost savings, and stuff like that. So in that context, you're wanting that experience to be delivered across the board, and that is where as a service really comes into play. As I see, as a service model, you get the cloud experience, or anywhere you want to have your data center, right? The data geography of your organization can be at the edge or can be in various other locations in multi-clouds as well, right? So across all of this, if you're able to get something that you can really have as a single hybrid entity and the experience that is cloud-like across the board, then as a service model will really become effective, right? And this gets to the transformation motion of various organizations, and to deliver that transformation, I think going to as a service as an entity becomes very important. That is where happy to kind of speak what Vikram just said earlier around the Greenlake offering that HP has, where you get an as a service consumption model, which basically gives you subscriptions, subscription based consumption of IT, where you pay as per use. It is managed for you, in the sense it becomes very, very cloud. All the workloads that we're talking of today is essentially part of what Greenlake can offer today. And that gives you the flexibility and a single kind of framework that allows customers to use as a service. If you look ahead of time, I think customer centric and consumption driven hybrid world is what I see, and where pay per use models will really become an absolute necessity, right? You want to essentially look at how frugally you can set up your IT, and you want to decrease the waste that is possible, decrease the upfront investments that one would want to have. All of that are certain aspects that will drive as a service adoption. And in that context, I can look at Greenlake being one of the only true pay-per-use IT hybrid cloud as a service model that is available here today. And when you talked of frugal, what stuck to me was, by definition, you mean an economical usage of this, and you manage your expenditure and look at prudent ways of doing it. So no matter what your use cases are today, you can actually get that use cases delivered as a service. And some of which that got noted by Vikram included things like containers or SAP or VDI workloads or hardcore infrastructure, which you're talking of network, compute, or storage, be it setting up of a private cloud, or looking at industry solutions, right? Whether it is industry solutions for healthcare, or for financial services. In all these areas, you're seeing as a service being delivered. A lot of that got discussed in the BFSI space today, where you are transforming how you can do your KYC, right? All of that is moving towards as a service. A greater adoption is envisaged, and the kind of solutions that are appearing as service today is a standing testimony of why this is an absolute necessity today, right? Take the likes of an SAP or a VMware or any industry, a large vendor today, or hyperscalers. Everyone are looking at providing these kind of solutions across the board. And from an HP perspective, we have been working on this model, as I said, for some periods of time. Recently, we kind of announced a lot of Greenlake options, which essentially talked of providing cloud native infrastructure, and providing a zero trust architecture, right? Or providing a backup solution onto the cloud. Right? Several examples where this entire service that we are offering, right, as a service offering, is only getting embedded. It is getting better. It is creating a better kind of experience to end customers. Typical IT problems are all gone. You essentially choose, order, install, and go, that is where you're heading to. But the last point I really want to make is around the sustainability aspect, which got talked about. When you're looking at IT infrastructure, there is so much of scope for you to work on a sustainable IT architecture, right? You can right-size your IT. You can increase your utilization of your assets. You can look at how energy consumptions can be reduced. You can look at how technology can be refreshed. You can look at how erstwhile technology can be retired, which also contributes to a green kind of an environment. So all in all, if you look at the entire as a service module, it is the right way to choose your IT infrastructure moving ahead, because it kind of caters to all aspects that you have as a cloud experience. Secondly, it makes you ensures that your IT is optimally configured both financially as well as from a technology perspective. And thirdly, it is something that drives the sustainability. When people are talking of data centers that run on renewable energies, I think this is the right way to look ahead, and I think this is the key to kind of moving ahead from an IT perspective, Amrish.
Thanks, Ranga. Really appreciate how you connected, a lot of what was said earlier, including this sustainability bit. Sarika, do we have another 5-7 minutes so that I could do one last round and ask the panelists for their sort of final comments?
Sure. So maybe you can just take another 5-6 minutes, and also there are some audience questions. Although audience, we can't take all the questions, but we posted the questions, and maybe moderator, you like to take one of them.
Okay. Thank you, Prakashi, for also joining. We really appreciate you being here. Professor Singh, any last sort of comments on, on the basis of what you heard from Prakash and from Ranga and from Prasanna? Maybe one question I had was that, BHU is a significant university. Does it require also, like Prakash sir is talking about, a change in the larger procurement system? But maybe in a minute or two, if you had any feedback about that, that would be really great. Or any last comments? Yep.
Yeah, just two very quick points, Amrish. One, I don't think we have the flexibility to change significantly our procurement policy, because we go as per the public procurement policy of Government of India. So as and when this allows a bit of more flexibility, we'll be going with that. But second point, I think that I would like to emphasize is that recently I was talking to my leadership about setting up a facility managed kind of compute lab, as I mentioned, 24/7. And the first impression that they got was, is it cloud? So the fact is that, things could come as a service, even in an on-prem deployment, is something that is new to a lot of people. So everything as a service, what I understand is not limited only to cloud offerings, but also to many other offerings which could be on-prem. And the kind of mindset that people have in Indian institutions, or for that matter, is that there has to be some on-prem component, and this will take time to. So the best model would be this: a small on-prem component, and there's something that you take from cloud, and there's some kind of bridging that happens. So possibly that is going to be the model for some time to come, and how much is in what mode is for the time to tell.
Thank you very much for your brief but very, very pointed sort of update. Maybe at the end I can talk about what FICCI could try and help do, but thank you very much for that. And Prasanna, would you like any last couple of comments as we sort of wrap up? And thanks for your feedback initially also. Yep.
I think thank you so much. I think whenever we look at any of those ecosystems in India as of now, and India has such a potential to be a very good economy in future, we need to embark on how do we really amalgam existing architecture. Say example, account aggregator, what they have done, right? So if I use FICCI in between account aggregator and give an option for banks and the complete ecosystem to be part of that whole stuff, right? Similarly, we need to see how consolidation of many systems will happen, the way we have seen UPI, the way we have seen BBPS. I think that's how I think we'll have a lot of opportunities for many more automations for startups or SMEs or I think government or MITI should look at how we can really utilize AI or blockchain to create that backend layer. So this is one of my last comment.
Thank you, Prasanna. Ranga, maybe again, just a last quick couple of comments, though I think Professor Singh and Prasanna have sort of alluded to what you said, but any final comments from your side? Ranga?
Yeah, Ambrish, yeah. It's a changing world, and as a service is the key to the next step right ahead. I think understanding this as a kind of a solution that incorporates what's best from all worlds and delivers that hybrid experience, cloud-like experience, is what one needs to understand. As the professor said, as a service doesn't mean cloud, right? It is as well possible. Where I said the experience really matters. We hold on to that, and we see how it can be delivered in the context of every given organization. So when we say as a service, it's essentially a cloud that is coming to your doorsteps.
Thanks, Ranga. So Prakash sir, thank you very much for having stayed. I hope you got some valuable inputs from the panel. We had academia, we had banking, we had technology. I think it's really a bold step which GEM has taken in terms of taking this forward. So would really appreciate any feedback you have for the panelists as well as for FICCI.
Yeah, I'm thankful to all the panelists for knowledgeable discussions. Just one point to make, that bigger organizations like if you talk of Power Grid or Indian Oil, they are all aware of what upgradation is taking place in technology or what cloud is. When it comes to smaller buyers in small places, they have this resistance to why should we go for service? I mean, why should not we buy the things the way we have been buying for last 20 years? So I would request the cooperation from the industry to make the buyers aware that this is a better option. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prakash sir. And I think GEM is doing it in its own way, but I would think FICCI and all can help. Sarika, do we have time for the questions? Will you sort of run them past the panel, please, before we sort of close after that?
Okay, since we are, of course, above the time, but since the audience have been very active and we have more than 150 participants who are watching live, so I'd not like to disappoint everybody. I'll take up one question, which is like, and I'll leave it on the panel. Anybody can answer that. On the implementation basis, how frugal procurement of ICT services can help the startups and SMEs in this area, especially for our country. And the second part is what role government should play in it. So, Mr. Mirani, I'll come on the second part to you later. Maybe Ranga, you would like to take it up, or Professor Singh, you would like to take it up. Anybody who would like to come in, or Prasanna? Okay, let me do the easiest way. Ranga, I'll start with you. Maybe a quick one-liner on this from your side, and then I move to Professor Singh and Prasanna.
Yeah.
So there isn't anything barring from MSMEs to kind of use everything as a service, right? I think I strongly go by the fact that creating more awareness is something that we need to do. And obviously, it is something that will have a bigger impact in an MSME world if he's actually not investing more on infrastructure and related stuff and getting bogged down, and focuses on what his business is and innovation is. That's my take on it.
Thank you.
You want to add?
Yeah, I think Sarika ma'am, I think just to support Vivek sir. So I think we have seen UPI movement for retail customers, right? I think we need to see now that similar kind of movement for SMEs, and things are happening in that direction. A lot of things we already implemented. Now we have to consolidate all those railroads. This is what I was saying in my previous comment, right? Then ultimately we will see in the next few years everything as service for SMEs, and we'll have a better offering from the SMEs, and which will inherently will help our GDP and so on. Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Singh.
I think I will agree with Prasanna and Ranga both. In fact, for SMEs and for startups, everything as a service matters much more as compared to others. So for them, it gives the desired flexibility and how they want to invest and at what point they want to invest in what volume and so on. So this is a wonderful thing, and it's going to help them in many, many ways.
Thank you. Vikram, would you like to add anything to this?
Yeah, ma'am. In fact, I was about to tell when Prakash sir said, you should reach out to the smallest customers. Sir, you'll be surprised. We have customers like Achi Masala, which is a spice company where, who has gone for a concept like Greenlake, or a assemblage, which is into media animation. So it's just not that we are focusing only on the top customers, but we are also trying to make this a mainstream for even small and medium customers who are really struggling with, managing their cash, and as Prasanna said, their, probably operational expenses.
Thank you. So at last, I'll come to you, Prakashji. So the question basically is that how can we formalize the frugal procurement at the financial institution level, and what government role can government play on it? I understand you made a statement that there's lots of awareness which needs to be done for the industry, for which, of course, FICCI would be happy to work with our partners and the members on the same. But it's coming to the specific question that how do you formalize this arrangement? Is there something which can be done from the government side? Any take on it?
You see, as I said earlier, our 58% of the total procurement comes from MSMEs. So whatever services we develop, we keep in mind that these should be helpful to the MSMEs and startups. We are extensively working to develop our fintech space where this capital requirement of MSMEs would be taken care of. So our platform is inclusive, and we will take care of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Prakashji. So I would say that we are almost 28 minutes above the timeline, but it was such the involving discussion. I'm sure the participants really enjoyed it, and there are questions which are flowing in. I have to excuse from the participants that we can't take all the questions right now. We would be happy to take up any specific questions you have with the panelists offline. Definitely, this area is not something which has just one level of discussion for today, and it will going to be continuing in multiple levels in coming future, because this is what we talk about is current normal. So with these words, I would like to thank everybody, the panelists for this session, Mr. Vikram, Professor Vivek Singh, Mr. Ranganath, Mr. Prasanna, the moderator, Mr. Ambrish Pakaya, and of course, our chief guest for the seminar, Mr. Prakash Mirani-ji. Thank you, Mirani-ji, for taking out time. It was really helpful to get you on board and listen to you. With these words, we close this seminar. Namaskar. Thank you all. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.